The Ascended Collective had existed for 7 million years. They had transcended physical form, evolved beyond matter and energy into beings of pure thought. They had witnessed galaxies born and die. They had seen 1,000 civilizations rise and fall. And in their infinite wisdom, they had grown bored. The younger species are so limited, prime consciousness Athos mused, its thoughts rippling across dimensional barriers. Perhaps we should guide them. Shape them. Make them better. The collective agreed. After all, what were a few billion lesser beings compared to their vast knowledge? They would remake the galaxy in their image. Perfection through forced evolution. Harmony through absolute control. They started with the peaceful Valori, rewiring their neural patterns to be more efficient. The Valori became docile, empty shells of what they'd been. Then the Kreshtar warriors, their aggression corrected. They lost their will to fight, to strive, to compete. Species after species fell under the collective's benevolent tyranny. They called it improvement. The galaxy called it extinction of the soul. But there was one species the collective had overlooked. One they'd dismissed as insignificant. Humanity. Humans had been the galaxy's guardians for 12,000 years, ever since they'd emerged from their death world and found a cosmos worth protecting. They didn't conquer. They didn't rule. They watched. They waited. They defended those who couldn't defend themselves. And they'd been very, very quiet about their capabilities. The collective discovered humans when they attempted to ascend the Thur Ion species, gentle philosophers whom humanity had befriended centuries ago. The Ascended sent their consciousness probes into Thur Ion space, ready to begin their work. They never reached the Thur Ion homeworld. Guardian Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, humanity's first dimensional interdiction vessel. Around her, a crew of specialists monitored systems that shouldn't exist, technology that bent physics so far it almost broke. Confirmed, her sensor officer reported. The Ascended Collective is attempting dimensional breach in Thur Ion space. They're preparing neural rewrite protocols. Elena's expression hardened. Activate the Cage Protocol. Across 12 light-years, hidden installations that humanity had built over millennia came online. Not weapons, something far more sophisticated. A dimensional prison woven from quantum-locked spacetime, powered by harnessed dark energy, and reinforced with mathematics so complex they bordered on metaphysical. The collective felt it immediately. Their consciousness, which had flowed freely across dimensions for eons, suddenly hit walls they couldn't perceive or comprehend. What is this? Athos's thought form screamed across the void. What are you? Elena opened a communication channel that shouldn't work, human technology forcing itself into spaces where thought became reality. This is Guardian Captain Elena Vasquez, representing humanity. You've been making unauthorized modifications to sovereign species. That ends now. Humanity? The collective's confusion was palpable. You're barely evolved primates. You achieved spaceflight mere moments ago in galactic terms. You can't possibly. We've been watching you, Elena interrupted. For 7,000 years, we've watched every species you've touched, every mind you've violated. We studied you. Learned how you work. And we built this. The cage tightened. The collective's consciousness, so vast and powerful, found itself compressed, confined, unable to escape into the higher dimensions where it had lived for millions of years. Impossible. Athos raged. We are beyond physical constraints. We are thought itself. And we're the species that figured out how to trap thoughts, Elena replied coldly. You made one critical mistake about humans. You assumed because we still use physical forms, we're primitive. You never asked why we chose to stay physical when we could have transcended centuries ago. The truth hit the collective like a supernova. You could have ascended? We had the technology 2,000 years ago, Elena confirmed. But we learned something you forgot in your 7 million years of existence. Physical form isn't a limitation, it's an anchor. It keeps you connected to reality, to consequences, to the beings you're supposed to protect. You became so advanced you forgot what it meant to care. She pulled up holographic displays showing the collective's victims, species reduced to hollow automatons, their cultures erased, their potential destroyed. You became gods who didn't understand the responsibility that comes with power, Elena continued. So we stayed human. We stayed grounded. We stayed guardians. And we prepared for the day someone with godlike power decided to abuse it. The cage compressed further. The collective's consciousness, which had spanned dimensions, found itself squeezed into a quantum-locked containment field no larger than a human fist. What are you going to do with us? Athos asked, fear coloring its thoughts for the first time in millennia. We're going to teach you what we learned, Elena said. That being advanced isn't about transcending everything, it's about knowing when not to. That power without restraint is just another form of tyranny. And most importantly, that the younger species don't need to be fixed. They need to be protected. She initiated the final protocol. Welcome to the reflection chamber. You'll spend the next 1,000 years experiencing what you did to others, every erased memory, every stolen choice, every murdered dream. Maybe by the end, you'll understand why humanity chose to remain human. The collective screamed, but the cage was absolute. Built by beings who understood both ascension and humility, it was inescapable. Across the galaxy, species began to wake from their forced evolution. Neural patterns restored by human medical teams. Cultures painstakingly reconstructed from archived data humanity had secretly preserved. The Valori wept when they remembered themselves. The Kreshtar roared in celebration of their returned passion. And humanity? Humanity went back to watching. Guarding. Waiting. Because that's what guardians do. They don't seek power. They don't demand recognition. They simply stand between the innocent and the dark, armed with the one thing that transcends all evolution. The choice to care. The galaxy never forgot the day the oldest species learned they weren't the wisest. And humanity continued proving that sometimes, the best way to be advanced is to remember what it means to be human.